Welcome to the 6th video seminar on non-contact cube play. These videos are for 3 different audiences. First, if you are new to backgammon and new to the cube, you are in the right place. Second, if you are an intermediate or advanced player, but you are not consistently using the 8-9-12 rule or not using one of the advanced tools like the keys count, you are in the right place. And third, if you are one of the experienced players at your local club and you find that despite teaching the 25% concept, the 8-9-12 rule, and the keys count, you still have new players struggling in this area, these videos are a free resource for you to use. These 6 videos will take you step by step from absolute beginner to expert level cube handling in non-contact games, for cash games and for single games. I may add more in the future if this makes sense to do so for the student, but these 6 videos represent a complete course for the cube in non-contact positions. And this does not include match play, which is a very complicated, a different but related skill set. This is video 1, where we'll be looking at the basics of why we cube and why it's important to get the cube action correct. We will look at the cube window, what it is, and how we use it. We will introduce the 25% rule and demonstrate where it comes from and why it's so important. We'll also introduce the 8-9-12 rule, and the details of how I use it will be the subject of the second video, but we will introduce it in this video. And the Super 10 shortcut, which is something I developed, which is something you can use immediately in your games. Now, if you're a beginner level backgammon player, this will be a big step. And this will be very quick in that you will be able to use this right away. The best thing about the Super 10 shortcut is you can use it without multiplication, without division, without fractions, without decimals, without percentages, and without using almost any math at all. Let's get started. Let's look at the cube window. So we have a non-contact position, and in this position we have no race lead. This is perfectly tie. But we are on turn, and being on turn, when the checkers are high and the pip count is high, is worth about 10%. So, in this position, there's our 10%. 50% equal plus 10, 60% to win, and this is not a cube. Just having that advantage is not a cube. Let's improve our position like this, and that brings us to 62% to win. Still no cube. Let's improve our position again. Checker from the 5-point to the 2-point. Now we're 69% chance to win. Still no cube. This is a healthy race lead. Still, this is not a cube. Let's improve our position yet again. Checker from the 6 to the 5. 70.5% to win. It's now correct to double and for our opponent to take. Let's look at it again. We're going to improve our position, taking checker from the 5-point to the 3-point, and we've improved to almost 75% chance to win. It is correct to double and to take. Again, we're going to improve our position, taking a checker from the 4-point to the 3-point, and that brings us up to 76.5% to win. This does not look fun for our opponent. This is double, take. This is still a take for our opponent, even with this big lead. And the last improvement we're going to make in this position, checker from the 3-point to the 2-point. Now we're 78.5 to win. This is a double and a pass. Finally, after all that, we finally get a pass. But if we look what happened here, we have no cube as we continue to improve our position. Then it became a double take, and as we continued to improve our position, it remained a take until it finally became a pass. And obviously, as we continue to improve our position, the pass just gets larger and larger. And this concept, if you're new to backgammon, this is very important to look at the cube as a window of opportunity. In this case, we started out with the position being not a double, and as we improved and continued to improve our position, we slowly moved to where it is a double. It stayed a double as we continued to improve our position, and then finally double pass. So if you want to look at these as windows, if you want to look at this as a range for no double, a range for double take, and a range for double pass, whatever you have to do, looking at it this way will keep you from some of the things that when we started to play backgammon, we used to think that the reason to cube is to get our opponent to drop. Or as soon as the position becomes good to double, it's a pass. And that's not correct. We have to look at these as windows that we move in and out of as our position improves and as we start to fall behind when our opponent's position improves, and we want to get this right. And the reason we want to get this right is that, for example, if we have a position where we are, I think it was this position, where we win about 75% of the time. Now, if the two sides of this game played and they never touched the cube, there's about 75% to win, so on average, over 100 games, the position that's leading is going to win 75 points. You're only getting 1 point per game, and the opponent's going to win the other 25 points. And we're looking at this as a percentage. So 0.75, 0.25 for the opponent. But proper cube action here in this position is double take. So now that we've cubed, our wins go up. Proper cube action, our wins go up, and our opponent's wins go down. Now that's a good thing. Why would the opponent want to take when they're only winning about 16 points out of 100 available points as they play this position over and over? Well, if it's double and our opponent passes, now double take is correct in this position, but if they pass, it's a mistake. If we keep throwing this cube in this position and they keep passing, they're going to lose every single time. They're going to lose 1 full point every single time. So what we can learn from this is that when we use correct cube action, when we don't make a mistake, our wins go up, our opponent's wins go down. When we make a mistake and we don't cube, our wins go down from 84 to 75. And when we don't cube, our opponent's wins go from 16 to 25. Our opponent's wins go up. When we cube and our opponent makes a mistake, their wins go down, our wins go up. And what we need to learn and remember from this is that our cube mistakes always reduce our win percentage. Our opponent's cube mistakes always reduce our opponent's win percentage. And that's why it's so important to get the cube correct. We don't cube to get our opponent to pass, or to be clever, or to gamble. When we've determined it's no double, to the best of our ability, we don't cube. When we determine it's a double, we double. And when it's a pass, when it's a take, we take. When it's a pass, we pass. We're looking for correct cube action. And how do we determine this? We have our Super 10 shortcut. We have our 8, 9, 12 rule, which we will get to. And we have our Keith count to help us get more and more accurate with these decisions. And one more thing that's very important is to look at the 25% concept, which we will do next. Now let's take a quick look at this concept of 25%. And we've started to see this already in our series on pip counting and our last example, where we are down to only winning 26, 25, even 24%, and we're still supposed to take. And that it doesn't feel correct when you're first learning this game, So I want to map that out so you can have that in the back of your mind. It is something that is more useful at the start of the game and in the middle game. We don't really use it directly in the end game because we do have tools. We have our Super 10 shortcut, we have the 8, 9, 12 rule, and we have the keys count, among others that we can use. So we use those, but it's still good to know this, and if you haven't seen it, or if you only heard of it, seeing it mapped out may help you remember it, because it is something that you always want to have in the back of your mind when you're playing backgammon. So we have a position, we're not going to look at the exact position that we have, but we have a position, our opponent has a lead, they decide to cube us, and we're not really happy with the position, but we know that we can be down by quite a lot and still have a take. So we have to look at this and try to figure out if we're going to take or drop. And if we drop, it feels like we're reducing our losses because we only lose 1 point. We don't have to worry about losing 2 points or getting into a position where maybe we recube to 4 and then we end up not winning that. So dropping for a lot of people, especially when they're first learning this game, they're minimizing their losses. So let's take a good hard look at what happens when the opponent cubes us and we have a decision to make. Now, if we drop, well, we think we're going to win 1/3 of the time. We're going to win, lose, lose. If we kept playing this over and over, for every 3 times we play it, we're only going to win 1. Now, who wants that? Who wants to win 1 time and lose 2? It doesn't quite make sense if you don't know, if you haven't looked at it. So let's see what happens. We're going to minimize our losses by just dropping. So we drop the first one, drop the second one, drop the third one, losing 1 point on each of those games. Lose, lose, lose. We lost 3 points. But we're curious. We want to see what happens when we win 1 out of 3 times. So in order to do that, we take the cube. So we've taken our cube. We won 2 points. But we only win 1 out of 3. So now we lose 2 points and lose 2 points. Now where are we? Lost 1, 2, lost 2, lost 2, minus 2. Interesting. So when we take, when we win 1/3 of the time, about 33%, we lose 1 less than if we dropped. So by taking, we're 1 better. And just like winning 1, losing 1 less is the equivalent of winning 1. Let's look at another example. What if we had the same situation? We're not happy, but we know we can be down and it's still correct to take. What if we took and we only won 1 out of 5? Let's see what happens. If we try to reduce our losses by dropping, we would be down 5 points. Lose, 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 lose. But we're curious. What happens if we win? Just 1 out of 5. Well, in order to do this, we take. So we win 2, and we lose the other 4. Win 2, lose 2. Lose 2, lose 2, lose 2, minus 6. So when we take and win only 20% of the time, we end up losing 1. Because we lose 6 instead of losing 5. We lose 1 extra by taking. So in our first example, every 3 games, we gain 1 point with a take. It's got to be correct. Here, when we're down to 20%, every 5 games that we take, we lose an extra point. So in the long run, that's a pass. And as you might have guessed, our last example has 4. What happens if we try to reduce our losses by dropping. We drop every time. We're down 4 points. We're curious. What happens now when we take? We win only 1 out of 4. Win 2 points. Lose 2 points. The other 3 times, win 2, lose 2, lose 2, lose 2, minus 4. Equal. Dead equal. So when we take, winning only 25% of the time, we break even. So 25%, when you're playing a game that has a doubling cube, is your break-even point. And if it's exactly 0 equity, then you can take or drop. It's not a mistake. But owning the cube, if you get some good rolls, turn the game around, now you can cube to 4. And owning the cube has some value. And that's why it's not 25%. It's actually 24 or 23.5%, because owning the cube does have some value. But that's a subtlety. Right now, since we don't use this rule directly on the board, having this in the back of your mind and knowing where it came from will help you. And I did say that we don't use this directly, but there is one way that you can use it. So you're in this position and you are not happy. You have 3 gaps here. Your opponent only has 1 gap. They're only stacked to 4. You're stacked to 5 checkers. There's a good chance the opponent's going to pull 2 checkers off. They've cubed us, and if we take, they only have 1 gap. They're going to pull 2 checkers, and there's a good chance that we only pull 1 checker off. So already by the second roll, we're anticipating that in most cases, we're going to be behind on a checker. We're going to have more gaps still than our opponent. We're behind in the race, and the opponent's on a roll. This is just not a fun position to play. So the way we can use the 25% rule is our opponent cubes us, it looks terrible, we almost are ready to drop without even thinking about it, but we can be just below 25% chance, and we can still have a take. So we stop, and we do the pip count, we use the tools that we have, and we make a decision. And if visually it looks like a pass, but the tools we're using, our keys count, our percentage, our Super 10 shortcut, are telling us that it's a take, even though it visually looks like a pass, we have to take. And doing that will protect you from an emotional reaction when visually that board looks terrible. So that's that, and that's gonna round up the window, the 25% rule, have a better framework in our mind of what we're looking for. Let's get a little more specific and introduce the 8-9-12 rule. Now we know to look at our cube decisions as windows or ranges. And if we can identify when we cross from no double to double and identify when we cross from double take to double pass, our job is done. And one method, which is usually the first that players learn, is the 8-9-12 rule. And the rule simply states that if you have a race lead of 8% or higher, then it is a cube. And if your opponent is trailing your race lead by no more than 12%, it is a take, and if it's more than 12%, it's a pass. The 9% we'll discuss in the next video. The important idea here is that we now have specific target points for our cube action, and we have specific target points for our drop action. So here is the 8-9-12 rule. The way we're looking at it now is just the 8-12 rule. When our race lead is less than 8%, it's a no double. At 8% or higher, it is now a cube, it is a double take. Up to 12%, and then past 12%, it's correct to double and to pass. And just to demonstrate our new rule, we're going to look at 3 quick positions. This is the first of the 3 positions we'll be looking at. In this position, our pip count is 60. Our opponent's pip count is 64. We have a 4 pip lead, and when you convert this to a percentage, 6.7%. And that is less than 8. And this position is no cube. Our second position, in this position, our pip count is 52. Our opponent's pip count is 58. We have a 6 pip lead, and when we convert that into percentage, we are at 11.5%. Just less than 12, but within the range of double take. And this position is a double take. And our third and last position for this, in this position, our pip count is 54. Our opponent's pip count, 62. We have an 8 pip lead, and when we convert that into percentage, we are at 14.8%, and this position, being above 12%, is a double pass. The Super 10 shortcut is something you can look for, and when a position meets the criteria, you get a very fast, very easy answer of double take without doing any math. If we look at our cubing window for the 8, 9, 12 rule, 10% is right in the middle of double take. And this is an easy decision for both sides, both players. This is an easy double and a very easy take. And since we know this, it should make sense that anything close to 10% should also be an easy double take. And here are the rules. We're going to take our pip count, we're going to round it to the closest 10. Then we're going to take 3 numbers from this value. And if our pip lead is one of these 3 numbers, it's a double take. It's that easy. I'll show you how this works, and we'll do some examples so you can immediately use this in your games. So here's how this works. We do our pip count and we round to the closest 10. So we're going to get a number something like 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, or 30. And we're going to get 3 numbers from this. Now we want to start by being right in the middle of our double take window. 10% of 80 is 8. Very easy. 10% of 70, 7. 10% of 60, 6. 10% of 50 is 5. 10% of 40 is 4. And 10% of 30 is 3. Now that number is our 10%. It's right in the middle. So we're just going to go above and below it to get our other 2 numbers. So when our pip count is near 80, our 3 numbers are going to be the number 1 above, 1 below. And you can already see where this is going. Our numbers for 70 will be 8, 7, 6. Our numbers for 60 will be 7, 6, 5, and so on. 6, 5, 4. 5, 4, 3. And 4, 3, 2. And if our pip lead is one of these 3 numbers, it should be a double take. Let's go through some examples and see how this works. Our first position we'll look at, we have 60 pips for our pip count and 65 for our opponent. We're going to round this to the nearest 10. It's already at 60, so this one's real easy. What are our 3 numbers? 7, 6, or 5. Our pip lead is 5 pips. So we're right here. We're at the bottom end. So it should be a double take according to these rules. And since we're at the bottom end, it should be a very strong take for our opponent. Double take. The actual answer is double take, and there is our very strong take from our opponent, which we knew because we were at the bottom of our end. But we met our criteria of one of the 3 numbers. We got a very quick answer without doing any math. Next position we're looking at, pip count is 41, and for our opponent, pip count is 44. We have a lead. We're going to round this number to the closest 10 value, takes us to 40, and our 3 numbers, all we have to do is look at this digit, 3, 4, and 5. 3, 4, and 5. Our pip lead is 3. And as there's fewer and fewer checkers, our cube gets stronger. So, but we're still at the bottom end. Meets our criteria, so this should be a double take, and we are on the bottom end, so it should be a pretty solid take for our opponent. The actual number is double take by 62, very solid take, and a very easy take, 251. This would be a triple blunder for our opponent to drop this. Again, one of our three numbers, and we get our easy answer, double take. Our next position, our pip count is 34. Our opponent's 37. We have a race lead. Closest is 30, so we're rounding down, but as we get lower, this becomes stronger, so this should be a double. Our number is 3, so the three numbers we have are 2, 3, 4. Our pip count is 3, our pip lead rather, is 3 right in the middle. So this should be a very strong double, and it should be a solid take since we're right in the middle. The actual answer is double take, 163, very solid double blunder to miss this, and the take is a 50. Very easy take for the opponent. Pip lead is 3, meets our criteria, double take. Our next position, we have a pip count of 56 and our opponent's is 64. Nice healthy race lead. And if we round this to our nearest 10 value, gets us to 60. We're actually a little better than where we're at, but 60 giving us the numbers 5, 6, and 7. And our pip lead here is 7. So we're on the strong end of it, and we're just a little lower than 60. So this should be a very, very easy, very strong cube, but it does fit our criteria, so it should be a take. The actual answer is double take. May not be as strong as you had thought. As there are more checkers, as we get higher up in our pip count, it's just an easier take because there's a lot of play left in the positions. So as the pip count gets low, it's more sensitive, stronger for the person who's cubing. As the pip count gets high, it's a larger take. But in this case, we hit our criteria, and it's a double take. Our next position, our pip count, 73. Our opponent's pip count is 79. Closest 10 value is 70. Looking at that digit, giving yourself three numbers, one above, one below. And our numbers are 6, 7, and 8. We have a pip lead of 6, which is on the low end of this, and it should be a double take. It's on the low end of it with a higher pip count, so this should be a very, very easy take for our opponent. The actual answer is a double by 24, take by 282. And you can see the double, it's on the low end. It's a solid double, but it's close to a no double because we're on the low end of our range and there's still a lot of play left. However, this did meet our criteria, and it is a double take. Second last position we'll be looking at, pip count is 50. Our opponent's pip count is 54. We have a race lead. Looking at the cube, no need to round it anyway. We're already at 50, giving us our three numbers, 4, 5, and 6. 4 pip lead puts us right on the bottom. So this should be a double take because it meets our criteria, one of our three numbers. And it's on the low end, so this should be a very solid take for the opponent. And the actual numbers are double take, and you can see the big take for the opponent, 309. This is almost a 4x blunder for the opponent to pass this. And if you were on this side, you can still use this just as the cuber is using this. 50, you're looking at 4, 5, 6. The pip lead is only 4. You're on the low end. Very easy take. And in our last example, 54 is our pip count. Our opponent's pip count is 59, giving us a 5 pip lead. This is pretty close in the middle. It's closer to 50, so we're going to go to 50, giving us our three numbers, 4, 5, and 6, and it is 5. Pip lead of 5 puts us right in the middle, so this should be, despite the stacks here for our opponent, this should still be an easy take because we're right in the middle. The actual number is double take, 121.79, and it's a take by 79. This is a full blunder for green to drop this position. And if we use this rule, we are right in the middle of the range. It should be an easy take, and we are also a little higher than 50, so we're just slightly not as strong as we would be if we were at 50. So if you were green, you could use this 5 right in the middle of the range, very easy take. Two quick comments to finish this first video. First, the Super 10 shortcut is designed as a shortcut when one of our 3 numbers is matched. When our race lead is outside of these 3 numbers, it still may be a cube, and it still may be a take. But when one of our 3 numbers is matched, it allows us to act very quickly with a high degree of accuracy, and it's designed as a quick, easy tool for the new player. And secondly, all the different methods we use when we're evaluating the cube for non-contact positions are less than perfect, especially when the pip count is 30 or less, like in a position like this, when there's fewer checkers on the board. And the important takeaway, though, is that using any of these methods is exponentially better than simply guessing. In the next video, we'll dive deep into the 8-9-12 rule, and I'll show you some of the shortcuts I use when I use it.